Obviously, the end of the season didn't go the way we wanted to, but at the same time, making the playoffs 6 of the last 7 years, being in 2 of the last 6 Super Bowls, I feel like we've developed some sort of winning culture. Now we got to add to that.
Welcome to Bird's Huddle, powered by Fanatics Sportsbook. Along with Barrett Brooks, I am Taryn Hatcher. Howie, Roseman, and Nick Sirianni spoke today at the Combine in Indianapolis, and it seems like, understandably, they are surely trying to turn that page from the collapse of 2023.
Absolutely. They're trying to get rid of all that. We're turning that page. Let's go.
We are throwing the book in the trash.
We have to at this point. We have to.
Yeah.
We have to.
Throw the whole chapter, the whole book, the whole everything, just chuck it, burn it, whatever. On that note, it's time now for Barrett's three-point stance, none of which include that specific page. The Eagles, they're playing hardball with Haason Reddick. They have given the Pro Bowler permission to seek a trade. Reddick said that he doesn't want to leave Philadelphia. Today, both Roseman and Sirianni were asked about that entire situation.
Well, I'd say this, Haason, obviously, unbelievable player for the Philadelphia Eagles. Local kid, great success story, Camden, Temple, Philly. Love having Haason. I think that, anything that you're trying to do, you're trying to blend, obviously, what you're trying to do this year and how you're going to look in the future. And I think that's the hardest job. But certainly, don't want to get into any specifics with any conversations with players, but have tremendous respect for the player and the person.
He's played really, really outstanding football. So, we'll see how that plays out. And, hopefully he's an Eagle.
I hope
All
so,
right.
too.
So Howie said he didn't want to get into any specifics, but that's just no fun, so we will. Barrett, anything to read into when you try to read between the lines of what either Roseman or Sirianni said?
Well, both parties are trying to get fair market value. You got Haason and his club over there like, look, we got to be paid more than $15 million a year. Now, when I say that, it's almost like tongue-in-cheek. $15 million a year is not a lot of money. When you consider that guys at his position, with not even the same production that Haason is given, getting like $25 to $30 million a year. So, yes, he is grossly underpaid, and the Eagles realize that. But Howie Roseman, he's got to do his due justice and go out there and make sure that he gives the best deal he can to Haason Reddick. But he also gave him the ability to go out there and find a trade partner. And, rush in is a lot different. Rush in, rush linebacker, whatever you want to call Haason. It's not like, the running back position. There is value out there, and he's shown the ability for the last 4 years to be a double-digit sack guy. So he will have some guys that will go out there and be trade partners with him. There'll be some people who want to dance with him, but then it's up to the Eagles to see what that value really is. Are they going to let him go for less than a first, second, or third rounder? Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? And if somebody does give a first or second rounder for him, they're going to have to give him a new contract also. So that's also got to be written in when, with a trade partner. So both guys are jockeying, most sides are jockeying for position, who's going to give the better deal. But at least the conversation needs to start right around that $25 million mark and go up from there. And I'm sure that's what Haason's camp is saying. If we're not starting at 25, there's no need for us to even have a conversation. So at this point, they're just trying to see where the fair market value is.
Especially since the Eagles and all the other teams around the league are going to have a little bit more money to play around with.
Absolutely.
To the tune of $30 million.
Yeah.
Moving on to stance number 2, a lot of eyeballs on the defense this offseason. Howie Roseman was asked about the approach this offseason compared to what he did last offseason. Take a listen to that.
We made a conscious decision to kind of put a little bit more resources onto the offensive side. Knew that we'd lose some good players on defense. I think looking back, certainly missed some of those guys. That starts with me and making those decisions. And so I don't think there's an area that, we wouldn't, be open to addressing. Now, if you look at our defense and you're just kind of honest with it, well, we have a lot of young players at defense tackle, right? So is that as big a priority as other areas, just being honest? Probably not. But that's also an important position. So we're also not going to be in a position where we're going to turn down a guy because the resources are already there because we believe in the D-line so much.
Interesting. Do you think that means that defense is the priority? You kind of talked about where he's got quite a few young players and the way he approached offense last season.
I do think that, they're going to have a concerted effort in making sure they allocate resources to the defensive side of the ball. They're going to have to, because they did the year before and the year before that on the offensive side of the ball. They brought in some really good players. A.J. Brown, they gave the quarterback some money. They traded for a running back, fourth rounder for a running back. So it's time that they start going on and doing the same thing on the defensive side of the ball. They are very young over there at certain positions, like N'Kobe Dean right there. You got Ringo, you got Ricks out there. You got a bunch of young guys, Carter. They have to step up and start playing. So at this point, are you going to attack it in free agency or are you going to attack it in the draft? I think they should attack it in the draft simply because you have paid guys, to be free agents coming in. You've paid guys a lot of money. So you're going to have to use the draft now to make sure that you can solidify yourself going into the future. With guys like Haason, who's going to want a new deal, you got, 2 corners right now making a substantial amount of money with young guys in the wings that are ready to play. It's going to be tough on them, but, they got to go to the defensive side of the ball.
And you mentioned how young it is on the defense. It only gets younger. Fletcher Cox doesn't come back and after BG's farewell tour, so you kind of got to look ahead as well.
Exactly.
All right, moving on to stance number 3, the Eagles. They're not worried about Jalen Hurts or A.J. Brown. Nick Sirianni was asked about the leadership style of the quarterback and brought up Brown in the process.
Everybody has to lead their way, and Jalen has special qualities that people will follow and people will want to follow. And he's got to do what he needs to do to lead in that way. And so some people's leadership style is loud and aggressive. Some people's leadership style is by example, and some is a mixture of both. And so Jalen needs to lead how he needs to lead, right? And AJ needs to lead.
All right, does this all blow over, Barrett?
Of course it's going to blow over, because we're talking about, leadership styles. And, just like you said, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, 2 contrasting leadership styles. You got a guy that goes out there and works his butt off. 2 guys that work their butt off, but they, tend to attack things differently. Jalen Hurts is a silent guy. He doesn't say too much. He lets what he does on the field, his actions, dictate how type of leader he is. So he works his butt off and he leads by example. You got A.J. Brown, who also leads by example, but he's a little more boisterous. He's a little more animated on how he gets his point across, how he leads the guys on this team. It's not saying either style is bad, but both styles have been productive for this Eagles team. I know a lot of people talking about Jalen Hurts last year and how he was quiet. Well, that's the style. If he turned and started yelling and hollering, then they'd be like, oh, he's being fake. That's not his style of leading. So, they're not going to ask him to do anything other than what he's been doing, and that's leading by example, working his butt off, make sure that he changes the things he needs to change, and go forward and be the best version of himself he can be. So that means they don't have a problem with that. They'll be quite all right going into the future with both coaching styles and both playing styles.
Back here on Barrett's Huddle, and we go from Philadelphia over to Indianapolis, the home of the scouting combine. Dave Zangaro on the scene today as the Eagles brass spoke to the assembled media. Dave, the big question posed to Howie Roseman was about Haason Reddick's future. You asked what the ideal outcome would be. What did you make of Howie's answer? What do you think the actual answer is, Dave?
Yeah, Howie didn't give much on Haason Reddick at all, and that's not surprising. I mean, this is something where we really have to kind of see what the rest of the league and how they kind of view Haason Reddick, and that's what happens when you ask or you get permission to seek a trade. It's basically about establishing that player's value to 31 other teams. So it's too early to really say which way this is going to go. I think the best case scenario for the Eagles and for the player really would be to come to some sort of agreement. I don't know exactly what that would look like. Right now he's getting paid $15 million per year in the final year of that 3-year contract he signed a couple seasons ago. So if it's a 2-year extension, maybe $44-45 million, it gets him up over that $20 million plateau. But I don't think he's going to get top of the market money because he is a 29-year-old edge rusher. He's going to turn 30 in September. So I think the best case scenario is they find some common ground.
And maybe a little bit of a hometown discount as well. The salary cap has gone up by a record $30 million this offseason. What do you think that does in terms of impacting the Eagles' plans this offseason?
Yeah, I know they're excited about it, but there are 31 other teams that are pretty excited about it too. And that's the thing to remember here. It's not like it gives the Eagles any kind of real advantage over the competition, but it does give them some options in how they kind of go about their offseason. We've seen the Eagles in recent years not be afraid of dead cap figures. It's something they don't really worry about too much. Some other teams do seem to worry about it. So that might give the Eagles a little advantage because they're able to swallow some of those dead cap figures and not really worry about it. We've seen them do that with void years and the way they structure some contracts. And there are some candidates to cut and move on from, where you'd have some dead money. But if the Eagles want to go that route, now they have the opportunity to do so.
Dave, now you've said that you were curious what Nick Sirianni would say about how this offense will look when Kellen Moore comes in as the new offensive coordinator. What did you make of his response on that subject?
Yeah, it's kind of curious because you look at the defensive side of the ball, and they've really cleaned house. I mean, only one position coach remains from that side of the football. And then on offense, they keep Kevin Patullo, Jamal Singleton, Jeff Stalin, Aaron Moorhead. So they've kept a lot of those coaches together. And I think what Nick Sirianni said about the offense on Tuesday kind of makes sense given what we know, that it's going to be a collaboration. It's going to be kind of forcing together two offenses, what the Eagles have done for a few seasons under Nick Sirianni, but also the new concepts that they'll bring in with Kellen Moore and his quarterbacks coach, Doug Nussmeier. Curious to see how it all goes, because in theory, it sounds great. You're going to blend what works from both and eliminate what doesn't work. I think that's a lot harder to do once you get into practice. So that's something we'll really have to start watching in OTAs and then in training camp to get a sense of what this offense is going to look like.
Finally, Dave, looking far, far into the future, how do you think Howie and Nick set this up to prevent what happened at the end of last season from happening again this coming season?
Yeah, you know, since the season ended, we've asked in a million different ways, basically the same question. What the heck happened? And there's just not a simple answer for it. I don't think it's one thing. I think everyone wants to feel like they know the one thing that led to a collapse like that. And the truth of the matter is, when you have something that happens like that, it's not just one thing. So I understand what they're doing here. They're going to try to, obviously, I think coaching was a big part of it, right? You don't go out and fire both of your coordinators if you don't think that's an issue. But then they also brought in a ton of experience. You see that with Vic Fangio, who's been a head coach and a defensive coordinator in the league, and even Kellen Moore, who's done this now at a high level for a few seasons. So I think a lot more experience on the coaching staff, but they also still believe in Nick Sirianni to a certain extent because he's still the head coach, and they want him in charge of at least building the culture around the team. And we'll see if that's enough to fix it all, because I certainly think they do have the talent in that building to be a successful team again.
We shall see indeed. Dave Zangaro, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
Dave, of course, in Indianapolis to check out some draft prospects. So now we move on to Barrett's breakdown. Today, he's taking a look at perhaps the apple of his eye in this year's draft, Texas A&M linebacker. Of course, we're talking about a linebacker. Edgerrin Cooper, the 22-year-old first-team All-SEC and a consensus All-American last season. He racked up 8 sacks and forced a pair of fumbles. He's projected as a late first or early second-round pick. Barrett, tell us what he'd bring to the Birds.
Yes, Taryn, I am talking about another linebacker. This is 5 years straight. But I think that Vic Fangio, the new defensive coordinator, has to have a boss linebacker come in and be the guy to be an integral piece in his defense. And Edgerrin Cooper is the guy to do it. This kid has great size, consistent All-American, a great athlete, and I love the way he plays the run, pass, and everything else. Watch on this. When I watch this film and I break it down, he understands what his role is, and that's to be a thumper. Watch this play. Now, he is the stand-up linebacker on this play. But I love how he comes, evaluates the situation, but as soon as he figures out where the ball goes, comes straight downhill, bam, he's gonna thump him, and that's what you want. A thumper at the linebacker position, bop, he knows he's been hit. Watch the linebacker, he's sitting, the running back, he doesn't even want to get up. You want a thumper like that, but he can also blitz the passer. We need these type of guys that can blitz from linebacker level and get there and make a play. Watch, he's out here. He's going to blitz this quarterback. And this is Milroe from Alabama. He's also a big athletic quarterback, but he gets there with a purpose. Talking about a thumper. Comes around the corner, bop, hits him. You want the guy to come up there and make a play, and that's exactly what he does. But he also can spy him. He's a good enough athlete to run step to step. With Milroe's on this play. Here he is, he's spying Milroe. He's really good as far as getting out the pocket and making things happen. Watch this. He comes up, spies him a little bit, sits there, but as soon as he figures out that he wants to go make the play, he wants to get outside the pocket, watch how he gets shot out of a cannon. Spies for a second, spies for a second, then boom, go make a play, son. That's what I'm talking about. Get there and make the play. That's what you want. When all else fails, you got to try to block them with some big guys. That's what the offensive coordinator is going to say. You know what? Since we can't block you one-on-one, we're going to send everybody to it. This is a screen play. Now, we're talking about two big offensive linemen coming out, and their objective is to block him. These guys got to get out and block him. Coop sees that, but also this receiver is going to block Cooper on this play. Nuh-uh. Watch how athletic he is. Comes through, evades the tackle and the guard, and goes and make a play. Stops him. That could have been a touchdown. He was the last line of defense, but he's able to shoot through, keep from getting blocked, and go make a play on the running back. It's crucial we get a linebacker to go out there and play every facet of the game, and I think Edgerrin Cooper can definitely do that.